Chapter 23. A Secret. Buck's boat was not at the dock. "Sandy," she said, barging into the store, "is Buck out on the lake?" Sandy looked up from the cash register, his face flushed with a curious mix of surprise and anger. "Buck Jr., he growled. "Yeah, he's out there." "Why?" "What's the matter?" she asked. "Just a minute," he said. While she waited until he finished with his customer, Francie looked around the store at the old maps, pictures, posters, an arrowhead collection in a glass case, and an ancient illuminated Ham's beer sign with a picture of a red canoe on a shimmering, somewhat mesmerizing lake. "Mesmerizing, isn't it?" Sandy said, his voice in her ear. Francie jumped. "I don't remember that arrowhead collection," she said. "Has that always been there?" "Seems like it's always been there," Sandy said. "Are you mad at Buck about something?" she asked as they walked to the shore. "He's up to something." Sandy put a pair of binoculars to his eyes. "See that island? I'll bet anything Buck is on the other side of it. I'd like to know for sure what he's doing out there." "Wait, what? He's on that island?" "No, in his boat on the other side of it. I don't like it, and I don't trust him." This didn't make sense. The island was miles from where she'd been last night when she'd heard the shoveling. "Can we go check it out?" Sandy shook his head. "I can't. I'm the only one here right now." "I guess I can go look for him in the boat," Francie suggested. "No," Sandy said. "Take a kayak. You can sneak up that way. Quiet, small, low in the water, not very noticeable. If you take your boat, he'll see you coming. Keep yourself behind the island so he can't see you, then pull your kayak up on this side and walk over to the other side. You might be able to see what he's up to. Do it so he can't see you, though, or he'll quit. He's being super secretive. Here, take these." He handed her the binoculars. A customer called to Sandy from the store. "Help yourself," Sandy told Francie, gesturing to the kayaks, paddles, and life jackets. "You know how to paddle a kayak, right?" "Uh-huh," Francie answered, but Sandy was already gone. Well, how hard could it be? She'd seen pictures of people kayaking. She looked again at the island. How long would this take? Maybe 10 minutes to paddle out there, 5 minutes to see what he was doing, 10 minutes back? Half an hour total. She could afford that. It might be worth it. She tucked her purse and the shopping bag with the cute dress wrapped up in the scented tissue paper into the storage compartment and shoved the little yellow kayak out into the water. How were you supposed to get in, she wondered. Keep your center of gravity low, she surmised. But first. She slid graciously into the boat and was immediately struck by how tippy it seemed, like it might flip over any minute, and then what would happen? Would she be stuck in it, upside down? She didn't think about this for long, because the paddle was in her hand and the island was in her sight, and as she paddled, she got used to the tippy feeling. And she became captivated by her loon's eye view of the world. It was not so much being on the water as being in it, almost like being part of the water, the way a duck or a loon is, half the body submerged. A light breeze kicked up small, friendly waves that sparkled so fiercely she could imagine herself paddling in an enormous vat of diamonds. It was so quiet. The waves tapped softly against her craft. Somewhere in the distance, gulls squabbled like fussy toddlers. A boat motor droned far, far away, as if in her imagination, yet she felt surrounded by silence. It almost made her anxiety dissolve. Almost. At the island, Francie beached the boat, got out awkwardly, and pulled the boat up onto the shore. She suspected it had taken longer than she'd thought to paddle to the island. She'd have to keep this surveillance mission short. She hurried as much as she dared, while still trying to be stealthy, creeping over the rise of the island and down the other side, finally ensconcing herself behind a tree. She didn't really need binoculars. She could see well enough an orange flag attached to a buoy. It looked like a diving flag. Buck's boat was anchored nearby. She could see the head of someone in the water, and a person standing in the boat who, she noticed, was pointing at her. The boat turned and aimed right for her hiding place. "Great," she groaned. "I am one stealthy babe." "What are you doing anyway? Are you spying on me?" "You seem like you're spying on me," Buck said, unzipping the top of his wetsuit to his navel. The other guy, the boat guy, who looked like he'd spent way too much time way too deep underwater, eyed her in a slack-jawed yet thuggish way. "No, I'm not spying on you," she said. "What are you doing then?" "Okay, I am spying on you." "Aha!" Buck exclaimed, as if he'd just pried this information from her by inserting bamboo shoots under her fingernails. "I'm just curious, for cry-eyes," she said. Buck appeared wounded by this remark. Still, Francie plunged on. "I mean, what's all this secrecy about? Can't you just tell me what you're up to?" "What makes you think we're up to anything?" He sounded like a villain in a bad spy movie, only with the nasal twang of the local accent, which spoiled it somewhat. "Because I heard you telling your dad." Suddenly it occurred to her that Buck Jr. was out here goofing around with his dad freshly dead. "Sorry about your dad," Francie said. Buck grunted. "I don't mean to be rude, but shouldn't you be home with your family?" "Not really my family. Buck was kind of my stepdad, my mom's ex-husband." "Right," Francie said, "but your name is Buck, too." "It isn't really. It's Gerald," Buck Jr. said. "When Buck married my mom..." "Rose?" "Yeah, Rose. Buck thought Gerald was a sissy name, so he started calling me Little Buck. It stuck. I hated it. So then it got to be Buck Jr." "And that's okay with you?" Francie asked. Buck shrugged. "I guess I don't want a sissy name." "So you and Buck Sr., Francie said, you weren't close?" "Not particularly. Are you interrogating me?" Buck sounded irritated. Francie ignored the question. Keep moving, she thought. "Listen, you told your sort of stepdad that you found something. Also, your girlfriend at the realty office says you've been bragging about finding treasure out here." "She's not my girlfriend," Buck said bitterly. "How do I know I can trust you?" "Come on, Buck," Francie said. "Just tell me what you found. Or show me. I mean, it's not illegal or anything, is it?" "Fine," he said. "I'll show you, but you're going to have to be blindfolded." Before she could protest, a bandana was wrapped around her head. "How can I see anything if you blindfold me?" she cried. "We're just blindfolding you so you don't know where we're taking you." The boat whopped over the waves, jarring her spine. Without being able to see, there was no way to anticipate or brace herself for the worst of the waves, and she clattered about in the boat like a loose bait bucket, knocking her knee, shin, shoulder, elbow. How would the waves that had seemed so placid in the kayak become so violent in the boat? As they bounced along, she started thinking that maybe she wasn't taking him seriously enough. He could be the killer. He had a motive. Bang! Ouch! His stepdad's money. He probably stood to inherit. Bang! Ow! Something. He had the opportunity. He would have easy access to his stepdad and would know his eating habits and choices and... Ouch! Bang! She forgot whatever it was she was going to think. Oh, and one other thing. He needed money to fund this treasure hunt, if that's what it was, desperately enough to go through the realty office drawers for loose change. The boat slowed, the motor cut out, and she felt and heard the hull scrape against sand. Then she was lifted out of the boat. Apparently thuggish sidekicks are useful for this sort of thing, she thought. Set down, and led along something that sounded and felt like gravel, and eventually onto uneven ground and into the woods. The whapping of the boat on the waves was replaced by the whapping of branches against her face. Thwack! Ouch! She was whapped in the face by something whip-like, jabbed by something pointed, poked by something sharp. More "Mamma mia, what have I done?" thoughts as they marched through the woods. What if they're planning to do away with me and leave me back in the brush to rot? She reflected on opportunity lost. If she got out of this alive, she would not be so impulsive anymore, she told herself. She would think things over more carefully, look before leaping, etc., etc. She was sorry she hadn't made more of an effort to get in touch with her brother. Would he even come home for her funeral? Too bad she won't get to see him. They came to an abrupt stop. Ouch again, as her shin struck against something hard. "Ready?" the thug grunted.